let's talk about some solutions. Hunter, let's start. One view says that reducing global warming pollution by 2% per year would be very costly. If we got started in 2010, do you think we could cut 20% during that decade? You worked for some of the biggest companies in the world, Walmart, Shell Oil, Pentagon. So what would it cost?
Eben, why are we talking 2010? Let's start now. Because in fact, that's what the best companies around the globe are already doing. The better part of 10 years ago, DuPont announced it was going to cut its emissions of greenhouse gases 65%, 65% below its 1990 levels by 2010. They've done it. They've already cut it 67% for a savings to date of $3 billion. The members of Chicago Climate Exchange, which my company is a member of, by joining this voluntary carbon reduction scheme, pledged to reduce 2% a year. Now, today. And ST Microelectronics decided they're going to be carbon neutral, zero net CO2 emissions by 2010 with a 40-fold increase in production. And figuring it out is driving their corporate innovation. It has taken them from the number 12 chip maker in the world to the number 6. I teach business. This is simply better business.
Well, I hear you, but some economists estimate that to cut emissions rapidly would require an increase in coal-fired electricity prices of about 75%. Do you agree with that? And wouldn't that be a hard price to pay for low-income Americans?
How many economists does it take to screw in a light bulb? None. The free market will do it.
Oh, okay.
Anybody who's ever had a bulb burned out knows that somebody gets to climb a ladder. Economists run numbers based on what happened in the past and then project that in the future. In the last oil price run-up, how much did people cut? And they say, well, that's the price run-up that it would take in order to achieve that. That's nonsense. How many of you switched from vinyl records to compact discs? Because they're a better technology. And this transition is happening. So, last year, the world brought on about, 30 gigawatts. A gigawatt is a nuclear power-sized chunk of electricity, of wind. Here in the United States, we brought on 15 gigawatts of new wind.
So I see
We're doing it.
So you're taking us in the direction of a real clean energy revolution. And so I'm going to turn to Van now. And so Van, my question for you is, suppose that American entrepreneurs get us rolling down this 2% solution path and we develop inexpensive solar power for rooftops. I know you've raised concerns about the possibility of eco-apartheid. What do you mean by that?
Well, what I mean by eco-apartheid is the idea that we could have a society where you have ecological haves and ecological have-nots. Some people could have solar panels and hybrid cars and organic everything. Other people could be left out altogether, in which case we won't actually make this 2% solution work. We've got to build this movement to include everybody. Dr. King fought, bled, died to integrate a pollution-based economy. We get a chance to build a green economy. We should build a green economy that has a place in it for everybody. Let's make sure that those communities that were locked out of the last century's pollution-based economy are locked into the new clean and green economy. Let's make sure low-income people can put those solar panels up first so their energy bill comes down, so we can close those power plants next to poor people's neighborhoods so children won't have asthma the way they have right now. You can take that asthma inhaler out of little girls' pockets, let them go out and play again. The green economy isn't just good for the polar bears. It's important for the polar bears, but it's good for low-income people too. This is our opportunity by investing in a clean energy revolution to have a green wave that lifts all boats. We have the opportunity to fight pollution and poverty at the same time by investing billions of dollars, retrofitting, weatherizing the country, starting with low-income people. Help them first, and then we help everybody.
So how do we get those green jobs? How do we do that?
Sure. Well, if you think about it, if you talk about a green-collar job, somebody's got to weatherize millions of buildings. We've got to weatherize millions of buildings. We've got to put up millions of solar panels. We've got to build wind farms, wave farms. That's millions and millions of new jobs, new contracts, new opportunity. This is our opportunity to have green pathways out of poverty for people who've been locked out. How can we have all this work that needs to be done and at the same time have all these people who don't have work? Let's connect the people who most need work with the work that most needs to be done. That way we will have green-collar jobs, green careers, green pathways out of poverty toward prosperity. We can save the planet and we can beat poverty too.
Well, thank you, Van. Penelope, another big issue for you. Well, what about India and China? Now, why should the U.S. be cutting emissions and other industrial countries be cutting emissions when developing countries are not doing that now? Isn't that unfair?
Well, of course, it depends on your definition of fairness and whether or not you want to talk about per citizen or per capita or overall emissions. But I think as a moral issue, we're really thinking that no country, not India, not China, and certainly not the United States, can find a legitimate reason not to participate in efforts to stem the heating of the planet we live on. And the real point, I guess, is that investments in clean energy technology would be opportunities for the partnerships that will do the kinds of things that Van was just talking about.
Mm-hmm. Well, you know, we attacked the ozone hole problem. The rich countries of the world went first, and they invested in alternatives to Freon and other pollutants that were destroying the ozone layer. And once they had developed those low-cost alternatives, India and China signed on to that agreement. Do you see something similar working out for global warming?
That's exactly what happened, is that the United States was a leader in ozone layer protection and helped provide a financial mechanism to transfer technology to countries that didn't have the opportunities to be developing it. We also found lots of help, if you will, technologies from developing countries that businesses here in the United States were able to adopt. Mm-hmm. So we had a faster and cheaper transition away from ozone depleting substances than we ever anticipated.
So, Praveen, what do you say here? Are today's college students, are they concerned about developing country emissions, or are they getting started right on campus where they live?
Young people today see the climate challenge as an opportunity for positive change. We're fully aware of the great work that can be done here in America to cut emissions and to model responsible ways of living. You know, how we consume here contributes to emissions from so-called developing countries. So yes, we're concerned, but we're more focused on demonstrating leadership right now. For example, while a student at Pomona College, I was part of a student group that helped assess Pomona's emissions and helped propose clear strategies to reduce those emissions. We found that over 90% of Pomona's emissions come from energy used in buildings for electricity, heating, and air conditioning. And most of this was in academic and athletic facilities. We proposed to the school to immediately adopt a long-term 15-year climate action plan to ensure that we make those reductions, reduce to net zero. And now the school is going ahead with that. At a more national level, with the Campus Climate Challenge, young people have successfully pushed for climate neutrality on 470 campuses. They're paying extra fees to purchase green power on campus. They're cutting meat consumption in dining halls. They're organizing a national campus energy savings competition. And they're stopping new coal and nuclear power plants. So young people are rising up, and from many different backgrounds. And we're at the forefront of a great shift in our society's collective consciousness. To me, the greatest example, the most inspiring example of this is last November, 6,000 young people came to DC from all across the country, from every state and congressional districts in the country for PowerShift 2007, the largest ever climate change conference. Not only did we do that, but we met with 80% of the senators and representatives in Congress and told them that they need to act now. Mm-hmm. And this was done in a matter of 2 to 3 months. Next week, we're organizing similar events in Texas with the Re-Energized Texas Summit, in Oregon for students from the Northwest, and in Georgia for students from the Southeast. So we realize that now is the time for bold action, and we're leading the way.
Well, that's good to hear. I mean, we certainly have heard a lot about you guys being the quiet generation, but I think that's pretty much been put a lie to that, is what I'm hearing.
I hope so.
And I know also that there's been a lot of very exciting activity on campuses, and the National Wildlife Federation has been helping promote that. I know there's a competition called the Chill Out Competition.
Mm-hmm. Chill Out is a national competition we have that highlights what campuses are doing right now to reduce their emissions on campus.
Thanks. The Chill Out Competition is a great way for campuses to gain recognition for clean energy innovation and to demonstrate to the rest of the country what's possible.